My name is Kamasi Hopkins. I'm a philosophy major and psychology minor. I will be discussing philosophy, the history of philosophy, some key terms within the world of philosophy, as well as some key positions for mental orientation when undergoing one's own philosophical life journey. Philosophy is the academic study of anything. It is a noun that has both a countable and an uncountable form. The previously given definition of philosophy is the uncountable form. The countable form of philosophy concerns one's system of beliefs resulting from their search for knowledge about life in the universe. Countable nouns are nouns that express countability, where uncountables express ideas that cannot be quantitatively counted. You can say that you count the number of searches or studies you've done as either would be semantically accurate, like 2 studies. It would not be as accurate to say that you count the number of researches you've done, like 2 researches. Here we may grasp already the understanding of semantics as the branch of linguistics and logic concerned with meaning. Language is an expression of philosophy, as is any kind of artistic or creative expression, which is anything that a human does. Everything that we do is an expression of something within us. Our subjective experience of that which is objectively out there, whatever it actually is, however we're experiencing it, is what philosophy is concerned with. The word itself comes from philosophia, which is Greek for love of wisdom. Wisdom in pre-Christian Gnosticism is the twin and bride of Christ and is the Holy Spirit in the Holy Trinity. She is analogous to the human soul, and this follows with the Christian understanding that Christ is the bridegroom of humanity. The Pistis Sophia is actually a once hidden, buried text in which Christ is expressed to have come to rescue Sophia and show her the way back. As it was her calamity that created matter and her repentance that will allow the return to origin. According to the Gnostics, she resides in every human being as the divine spark. Christ gave philosophy, love of Sophia, to humanity, his wife, Sophia. Already we can observe pertinent primordial expressions of the yin feminine Sophia, intuitive wisdom, and the yang masculine logos, wisdom in action. The history of philosophy is also incredibly important. It once encompassed the liberal arts, athletics, martial arts, the performing arts, and everything. There are 5 major areas of philosophy, and I will be speaking about them in this specific way because although they're often taught in a group of 4, with one of them being kind of interchangeable and the other one being completely separate, but also very valid, I just put the lists together. The first is metaphysics, the study of being, as well as the fundamental nature of the world, cosmos, reality, etc. This is a very, very, very pertinent category. They're all pertinent, but metaphysics is the bridge category. The second is epistemology, which is the study of knowledge. So that's concerning. How do you know that whatever you think you know is real? Because we don't know anything. We don't know anything for a fact, right? You don't know that anyone else truly exists. You don't know that you are really sitting where you're at right now, right? You could be in the Matrix right now. You could be on shrooms somewhere and you didn't know that you even were drugged. Or there are times where we wake up in dreams. We wake up multiple times in dreams. So it absolutely is true that we do not know everything. So everything that we gather is in proxy to whatever it is that we are experiencing, and we share these things as generalizations, and that is applicable, that's practical, that's what we're after here, practicality and applicability. We're not after digging for an endless answer which would be to always say that nothing matters, which is what some people try to do with epistemology. They pervert it and they profane it, and they just want to be tongue-in-cheek. They want to be confrontational and just prove that you don't know anything. The study of epistemology really points you in a direction. It is a system check of sorts. It's how do we know? Like, we've discovered what the case is, and so this is how we just check. It's like it's the reasoning. It's our reasoning for the logic that already is life. Life is very logical, and I actually say this a little bit later, so I may be jumping the gun. But so the third category of philosophy that I figure is incredibly important to speak about would be methodology, the study of logic and reasoning. And we already kind of went into why that's important. The fourth is value theory, which is the study of ethics, the study and evaluation of the conduct of intelligent beings. Contemporarily, this mainly focuses on humanity. However, we do have like PETA, we have animal ethics. We are also animals. So that's why this divide is strange and not as helpful as it may have seemed. But so the fifth and final category is aesthetics, the study of the nature of beauty. This is something that we kind of already understand, but the nature of beauty, like what actually makes it beautiful. Why do we commonly enjoy it or experience it as beautiful, right? And when you understand, again, with epistemology, that we don't really know anything and that all of our experience is at the core of it subjective in relation to some perceived objective actor. How come there's a commonality with what we find beautiful or enjoyable if everything is so specific to us? And the simple answer is because we grew up around the same stuff, and we see this in generations. It's going to be the same in the species. The history now of philosophy, people went to temple, it was called, to learn these things, and this was church. And the clergymen of the past were all very learned scientists, and this is stuff that you can research right now. Even today, the upper house of the UK Parliament consists of the Lord's spiritual and the Lord's temporal, which is a secular division. So here we have spirit and science again. I mentioned before there was a separation of the bridge. That's very important to get into because about 500 years ago, the proverbial powers that be sought to and about did cast a veil over the aforementioned bridge between spirit and science. Multiple layers of veils placed over time, and it became a shadow. It became occulted. A solar eclipse is when the moon passes between the earth and the sun. The sun is occulted. This is why they have dubbed these sciences, these mysteries, these wisdoms that have been hidden over time, the occult. However, to know these things is to know thyself. As everything says, the purpose of philosophy is to recognize yourself. And that word consists of the prefix re and cognize. And so the idea is to put it back together cognitively, to run it again. Because you will never find yourself in the exact same place, obviously, but to bring the state back and as a computer system state, that kind of an idea. And that has more to do with, again, states of consciousness, and I will for sure be going into that in later videos. But so this is why they always say to remember who you are in all of the movies that we love the most, Lion King. And so as I mentioned earlier, life is logical. Philosophy is the means by which we may reason with it. Such wisdom as realized and expressed by the Akan, Dogon, Egyptian, Vedic, Taoistic, and perennialists are foundational for the integration of the metaphysical and ethical ends of philosophy. These are the ends that started and have driven the conversation thus far. Certainly the Socratic, Platonic, Aristotelian, Jungian, Cartesian philosophers had quite a grasp on these understandings because they went to Egypt, like Socrates and Plato. Pythagoras talks about having gone to Africa to learn many things. It is a myth and a deception that sub-Saharan Africa did not have their own innovations, inventions, or anything of importance to add. I personally descend from a few of these places. However, everywhere around the world had this, had opportunities at the least to come across this wisdom, because it is just life. It is just life. If you were there, you got it. Had to be there. Certain metaphysical elements apparently did not translate well enough through the ages of their disciples and people who just read their things, because even speaking today to a lot of people, I do not believe that they have read anything. The ideas that they hold are either inconsistent with the school, or they just, so like with atheists argue Christianity but have not read the Bible. And like this is basic logic and reasoning. You have to know about what you are arguing against. Otherwise, you can say anything, and who can hold you accountable except for on the grounds that you haven't read anything. But so then also, it's not fair for an atheist to ask someone to prove anything. And that's really the concern with atheism there. It's like, if you don't want to believe, sure, but don't go around expecting people who have read the thing also not to believe. Post-Aristotle, specifically natural law, which is the all-encompassing answer to philosophy, distinctively takes the proverbial backseat until being dubbed a pseudoscience, and then eventually reframed as the liberal arts and sciences. Like now, quantum physics it's the new way that they're explaining spiritual phenomena. It's the way that they're accepting spiritual phenomena today, it's just another step towards making existence impersonal, which is very important because we are persons. But fortunately, such minds as St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Anselm, Rudolf Steiner, Euclid, Tesla, and Rene Descartes paid enough attention, because that is all it takes, to recognize that which is the basis of all matter: patterns. Patterns give rise to all phenomena. It's an oscillation, real, cut and dry, simple, yin and yang. It's an oscillation. The sine wave, the spiral, you turn that, it is a sine wave. But even the writings of such famous occultists as Helena Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley greatly cover the aforementioned natural wisdom. However, theirs is apparently perverted, and in that order, expressions, hence the actions of those such as L. Ron Hubbard, who read their things. It's similar to what I was saying with the students of like Plato and Socrates. The teachings, the wisdom didn't translate well enough, and they did improper things with it. They didn't follow through in the way that someone who had sincerely attained the information and integrated the wisdom, there would have been a different fold out of events. And so that is why Aleister Crowley was actually against L. Ron Hubbard when L. Ron was doing I believe it was called the Babylon Workings or the Moonchild Ritual. That is the danger. It is virtuous, absolutely, to be humble, especially with information. If the ethics are not lined up, then the rest of what you do will be out of place. And that's really the core of that. Metaphysics is essential in order to bridge the understandings, but ethics is the device of navigation in the moral landscape especially. But the moral landscape manifests into very physical and tangible instances. That is why that bridge of metaphysics is so pertinent and important not to lose. Some definitely necessary mentions include Jordan Peterson, Russel Brand, Jacobo Grinberg. His understanding or his wisdom has been expressed as what he dubbed the syntergic theory. And it's very on with the Akan wisdom of Nyame, or in the Hindu wisdom, Brahma, the Tao in the Chinese schools. The idea is being itself as outside of any lattice or matrix, the consciousness that drives everything else. And like that's what he covers in the syntergic theory. Further on the list of mentions would be Karl Marx, Friedrich Nietszche, who I do bring up a lot whenever I cover divine madness, which is certainly important. Alfred North Whitehead and Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Love saying some of these names. Goethe is also stated to have expressed concerns regarding such empirical scientists as Isaac Newton, because the direction in which this new, at the time, new separate form of philosophy, which was science, as we know it today, was heading in a deterministically ignorant to the personal way nature, which was being investigated. Consequently, the subject was killed. It's the idea of a brute fact universe where everything is just machine, and that doesn't give an answer because who made the machine? And nothing just popped up, right? Because everything is, there is a distinct pattern throughout life. And so this is how we are aware of intelligence, because we are in fact intelligent. That which is gives rise to itself. And so intelligence will give rise to intelligence, period. An apple gives rise to an apple. It's over. Ultimately, the objective of a philosopher, one whom we'd in general respect as an honest philosopher, is to realize the most applicable and useful mode of being for oneself within the personal and public landscapes. You know, we've got the moral world, we've got the virtual world, we've got the in-person experience. These are all different scapes that have somewhat different fibers of what is okay, because you can hide behind a screen. And so, you know, the idea of keyboard warriors, people understand what I mean at that point, from the separation of what you can and can't do in different scapes, and being able to navigate those worlds takes different levels of senses, different manifestations of the idea of navigation, which gave rise to senses within intellectual beings, or intelligent beings. But so the objective does not include the use of one's knowledge to badger or enslave the less knowledgeable, as this is escapism. Judgment is a sign of a lack of experience, and knowledge to a degree, but knowledge gained through experience, which though would be discernment, and that is what makes it different. That's what makes judgment an extreme, where discernment is definitely necessary. Caution in some places is necessary, but the core of it is discernment. Navigation and discernment go hand in hand. So the objective of one, now having reached about the end of the video, there's three. It's to sharpen your philosophical comprehension, to expand openness and conscientiousness, and these are two of the big five personality traits in the original model, Ocean, which is openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Working on openness and conscientiousness is very significant, especially as we see it. The idea of the big traits is that they cover such a degree of relatable traits that are highly resonant with each other. Competitiveness and confrontational, it's a little heavier in meaning, but there's a competitiveness to confrontation. And so for that reason, there's no reason to actually put that as its own category. That's how the big five kind of work. It's again this idea of branching fractals in the way that the universe does. The base, and then it fractions out into similar smaller pieces, and that's just the continuous metaphysical nature of everything. So the final objective of one after watching this video would be to be able to define philosophy, as well as identify key areas of the study. The materials you'll need are yourself and honesty. To check in with yourself, you could ask, what is the difference between an idea and that which inspired the concept? What does it mean to be honest? And which names should you look up in order to get a start in your philosophical journey? A good activity, journal your understanding of philosophy, for it is most pertinent to get at this juncture into the mindset necessary to comprehend this form of writing, this form of communication, this art of communication, as well as to practice thinking for oneself. Annotation is highly encouraged. Give your thoughts on what has been said, your thoughts, so that way you can start to build those bridges, because that's the biggest thing about it. The psychology behind it is to work these paths of your mind so much and so efficiently that they become habitual. In the same way that our bad habits are habits, we're starting to just create better habits with the way that we think. Do not just accept anything that is said or presented as law. Find out for yourself. Consider and just live life. Do not escape, just live life. I appreciate this opportunity to exchange information with you. Be well.